Well, there's only one guy I would preempt Kolpak for. That's our next guest here because he was giving me a hard time. I said, hey, can you move to 10 o'clock? He said, boy, you better be like Simone Biles. And I said, well, it's pretty good. Is one Kevin Feeney because we do this every year. And I'm looking at my calendar like, oh, man, I haven't done this yet. And like, you start practice today. So I appreciate you coming by.
Hey, thanks for having us on. It's a great time of year. It's like Christmas for old people like myself.
This is double the whammy because I'm going to try and pry some information out of you because obviously there's a QB battle going on up in Grand Forks, which involves someone you may know. What do you know about what's going to be the QB situation?
You know what? Great question. I know they've got a lot of guys competing for a job, and it's a good room. I know that. Trey really likes the room and enjoys the company and enjoys the competition. And Coach Frichty is really challenging those guys. And
did you know Isaac beforehand?
You know, a little bit, a little bit on the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we had seen each other and stuff like that. But great guy. You know, very, very similar traits to Danny Freund.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to take long for that room to embrace what he's trying to do.
Okay, what is your fondest quarterback battle that you had? You remember that?
Well, you know, a little bit similar to this.
Yeah.
When I was a second-year freshman, you know, thought Robbie Hyland was coming back. And he was an all-conference type player. And then it was me and a couple other guys. I think we had 7 guys in the room.
7? Oh, God.
You know what? And then it went from I thought I was going to have an opportunity to be the backup. I was kind of 2B. And unfortunately for Robbie, got hurt.
Yep.
But you know what? The rest is history. But you know what it comes down to is I tell kids this all the time. When you get an opportunity, you better take advantage of it.
Yep.
And then when you do get that opportunity, don't let
it
anybody
go,
else,
right?
Don't let anybody else get a shot.
Yep.
So play through anything you can.
That was the old like Joe Montana, Steve Young thing I remember when I was growing up. Like Montana would never come out because he never wanted Steve Young to get in the game to show what he could do. And obviously he was a Hall of Fame player as well. That's the craziness of that position.
It is. And that's the hard part is in today's world, you know, everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses and you want to try and accentuate all the guys and what they can bring. But there is also something about having a guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the old coaching one is if you don't know which guy,
you don't have
any.
Right.
So, but
the tightrope here, your coach, but your dad. So how often are you asking him, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Do you know yet? How difficult is that?
You know, it's good. Trey likes to talk football. I mean, he's going to be a coach down the road too. So you know what? I would say we don't necessarily talk about the competition as much as we do just talk about schemes. That's what's fun for me is when, you know, I'll say, hey, what's going in today? What's gone in this week? What's different? What's the progressions? You know, and like when you're talking Iowa State, right? This summer they started to really jump into some film and so you're talking more like, okay, here's what Iowa State's going to do. Here's what they do really well. Here's some things that, you know, we've got to take advantage of if we get an opportunity. And that's the kind of stuff that I think is super fun because watching football with Trey and then now I would say with Jet, the conversations get really fun where my wife is like, I don't like watching football with you guys anymore.
Because it's so in depth, you mean?
It is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because really what it becomes is you start translating it into what you call it.
Yeah.
Right? And so and it's different.
The verbiage that you use.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because football is football. Everybody uses the
Yep.
same stuff. It's just what are you calling it? And you know, we get Trey's terminology and progression and what they're taught. And then, you know, like what Jet's going through right now.
Yeah.
But it's been super fun because you just start seeing the game different.
I thought of you guys immediately when I went to Vegas for Big 12 Media Days and visited with Matt Campbell. I'm like, well, Tyler Roll's on that staff. If anybody that knows Jet or Trey really well, it's Tyler Roll, which I don't know if that's an inside factor in this game as well, right?
Absolutely. You know, Tyler was this spring was in Moorhead for recruiting, and it's always awesome to see him, and it was great to visit with him. And when I gave him a hug, I said, dude, next time I see you, it's going to be at Jack Trice Stadium. So I said, hey, I'm looking forward to it. I might not be wearing the same colors this game that you are, but you know what? That's a first-class program. We had an opportunity when Elenius was getting recruited to meet Coach Campbell and Coach Rashid, and that's one of the first things when Tyler got that job, I texted him. I said, hey, Coach Rashid, man, that D-line coach is the real deal. And he was like, just getting to know him. He seems like a great dude, but there's a reason why they've been so successful at a place that's been hard.
Yep.
I mean,
right?
It's been hard,
doubt.
but they've sustained it now for a long time.
So that's going to be quite the weekend here for you because your opener is on a Thursday, right? So
Yep.
no, you don't have the crazy overnight travel. You got a little time here before you get to
I
get
do,
to Ames.
but you know what the funny story on that is I told our head secretary at the school, I said, hey, just letting you know, I won't be coming to school on, because normally we don't have school.
That's right, you're starting school.
We start
right.
early, right?
Yep.
And so I said, we play Thursday night. I'm not coming back for Friday school. I'm just going to continue my trek on to Ames.
Yeah, you got a head start because you're down in the Twin Cities to open the season.
Exactly. So Spring Lake Park on Thursday.
Yeah.
We're going to spend some time with family on Friday
Nice.
morning, and then head down and try and take the whole thing in on Friday night and Saturday.
So you're playing the night the Bison are in Boulder.
Yes.
So are you DVR like?
I will get the replay on that,
Okay.
and I won't check social media
All right.
so that I can follow. But and then the Gophers are that night.
Gophers
I
play
believe,
that night too.
In Minneapolis.
They play
So,
North Carolina that night. Yep.
yeah, it's nothing better than when
pretty
college
good, man.
football and all these worlds collide.
So you mentioned today being opening day. Gosh, this is now, what is this now? 14, 15 at Moorhead.
Since 2010.
Yeah, so 15.
So 15.
Holy
yeah.
cow. The feel, you get the nerves again, butterflies, or a little bit of both. What's the energy
Always,
today?
Always.
Yeah.
You know what? We were joking off air, right? You never really end. We've had a great summer. We've done everything that we're supposed to do all summer, and you give the kids a week off. And we coaches, you plan for this all day. It's like, and I don't plan weddings or anything like that. But at some point, you just got to go with it, because you got to go with the plan that you have, and because you can keep modifying. But the guys are excited. You know what? We've had a tremendous summer. These kids nowadays, they prepare a lot, and that's the biggest difference that I always try to explain to kids is we're doing this for 8 guaranteed opportunities.
Yep.
But we're doing this for a full year, and kids really put a lot into it, and so it's fun. But that's the beauty of where we're at.
We had Mike Zier from Beach on last week, who always practices at midnight. Have you ever thought about doing that?
We've talked about it. It's
That'd
funny.
be awesome.
That would be cool. White Bear Lake, I just saw on Twitter they did it, and they opened up a new stadium and all that stuff. And my wife's from White Bear, so I hear a lot about White Bear a lot.
And they have the same color scheme as you guys
they
as
do.
well.
They do.
Yeah.
She can take out her old Letterman's jacket if she wants. Just
Now
flip
I'd love to
it
see.
upside down, right?
So have you toyed with that idea of midnight practice?
We've talked about it, and in our challenge all the time is facilities, which would help.
Yep.
But like coaches and little kids and all that kind of stuff, it comes into play. But
neighbors may not be thrilled the lights of Jim Gota are on
well,
at 1
especially when you
right?
crank up the tunes too. You got to jack
Yeah, you're not
up.
going in silence out there.
No, heck no.
So it begins officially later today. In this day and age, and we were talking about this off air, do you know the amount of guys, or will you get some surprises that are going to walk up today this afternoon?
We'll get a handful, but traditionally, the old like opening the present and wondering, we get a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And we, like I said, our summers are very, very planned out, and the kids that have been there all summer, we're expecting really big things, and so it's exciting though. It's you prepare and you do all this stuff like I was saying, but there is something about the first day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what level you're talking about, whether it's FM football, flag football. You know what I mean? Every time. I just saw a picture, Trey sent me a picture of Jet 6 years ago, and it was his first day in padded,
oh, no kidding.
Practice at FM football. And it's like, he's like this size, right? And it's like, where does the time go?
Well, I can remember, I might have to dig this up. I have a video of you, Trey, and Jet out at practice when I was out there. I'm like, and now look at it,
I know. So
One's
Jack,
gonna be-
man,
right?
it's going to go quick, buddy.
It's just crazy.
It goes way too fast.
When you think about the upcoming season, and I want to talk about the offseason because you had a couple of your guys commit to Division I schools, which I know is a huge deal, just keeps the train rolling there. How do you feel like last year? We were 5-5 last year. Did you feel like you underperformed what your expectations normally are?
I would say yes from a standpoint of what our normal expectations are. I think everybody within our program knew that the challenges that we were going to have, and just a small senior class, right? And a senior class that had struggled to win throughout their periods of football, whether you date back to 7th, 8th, 9th, and so forth. And so, what I would say, I was really, really pleased with the way our kids competed last year. And, when you're playing with the amount of young bodies that we were playing with last year, it's hard to win. And I really thought our kids performed to their ability and really put forth a good effort. And, we had different challenges throughout the year, right? But overall, I really think that the kids grew, and it's really going to kind of set ourselves up for hopefully what we believe is a much improved team.
So my wife and I took Jack to his first Spud football game. It was homecoming last year. And Courtney obviously has taught many of your players. She said, boy, they're really young. I'm like, yeah, but that also means a couple years down the road, maybe even starting this year, you could be awfully good and
Right.
experienced by that point.
Right. You know what I mean? It's the progression, right? If you have, I want to say prior to maybe a year or two ago, every sophomore that played for us went on and played Division I football. Right? I mean, so I mean, when you're at the level of play that we're at in Minnesota, it's
That's wild, by the way.
And so, you know, when you have young guys playing in a 17 and 18-year-old sport,
Yep.
you know what I mean? You're going to take your bumps and bruises, but hopefully those things are going to pay off.
And that happens in college as well. I mean, when you see
Absolutely.
teams that are really young, and the Bison went through this at point last year, and they're going to, I think, do it again this year, where you may take some bumps here, but a couple years down the line, if you stay with them, boy, they could be awfully tough a
Right.
couple years down the
You know
road.
what I mean? 25 years, we haven't really ever had a freshman play for us. And last year we had 2 start
Yeah.
for us and a third play considerable minutes. And so
That was your quarterback and running back last
right,
year.
right,
yes.
kind of some big deals. But really, what we're expecting is those guys, for example, they've got to play like juniors. And then when you keep doing that, when you get to be a senior, the game really, really slows
Wait a minute,
down.
I'm going to get a hard time. Austin Richard never played as a true freshman?
They wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him. In Fargo, we couldn't do it. They would not
you had
because
some
of the
dudes at
That's
Fargo
what I'm
South.
saying, and they would not let us move up. That freshman. It's funny that you say that though, because
Oh,
that
man.
freshman football team at Discovery Middle School
Yeah.
was like one of the best to ever come through, and they would not let us move
like Brandon
anybody up.
Jemison never played as a true
No.
freshman. Catlin Soul, I'm like, holy
No,
cow.
Josh Horner.
Josh Horner, yeah.
None of those guys,
Holy
and
cow.
that's the way
That's
we were
scary,
at back
man.
then.
That's crazy. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll chat about the schedule. You guys are playing another tremendous schedule and talk about the offseason. You had a couple guys that mentioned that are going to be playing Division I football after their days of Moorhead. Kevin Feeney joining us in studio. Moorhead open up practice today. We're back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Wrapping up hour one. Kevin Feeney joining us in studio. Kolpak is waiting in the wings, so you can give him a hard time on that. You bumped him today, but it's for good reason, man.
Ooh, I don't know. I need to ask him some questions about my golf game because it got worse.
Do you
this
remember the
summer.
first time that Kolpak interviewed you? Do you remember that?
Ooh, you know what? It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
I was gonna say.
It's been a long time. I think one year I got in trouble for sitting on my helmet during a
Oh, no
media
kidding.
day. Oh, and I had to run a lot
Are
for
you
media
serious?
at media day, and it was on the cover of the Forum or whatever, on the front
yeah.
of the Forum, and I go. Then I get there, and there's a note on my locker to go see Coach Hager,
Yep.
and I'm like, no way. Of all things,
Oh,
and I was coming
funny.
off a concussion, so Coach Hager really gave me the business on that. I think I ran 14 240s for that.
Wow.
But
We'll blame Kolpak for that.
Yeah,
Then,
right, right.
That's fantastic. So it all opens Spring Lake Park. You and I have always talked about this. You guys actually, then they come up here, didn't they come
Last
up here?
year, yep.
Okay. I love when they do that. You guys, this is part of the deal of going down
Right.
there. But give me the scheduling philosophy of going and playing these kind of teams down in the Twin Cities.
Well, you know what? Right out of the gate, you got Spring Lake Park and Rogers
Yeah.
week 1 and week 2, and not that you want to project anything, but I think if you were to look at the favorites in Section 6, it's going to be Spring Lake Park and Rogers.
Yep.
So, you know what? It's a great challenge for us. It's a very traditionally proud program, a section contender every single year. We did make kind of a joke with our staff meeting because we play Spring Lake Park week 1,
Yep.
Rogers week 2, Bemidji and Brainerd. And it's like,
That's a gauntlet, man.
I don't know if
Who's
if
the scheduling whiz on that one?
exactly. But you know, we were saying we might throw the football more in 1 week than those 4 teams combined against us, because those teams just want to do
Yep,
what they
correct.
do, right?
Yep.
And they play in a very, very physical brand of football.
Well, for Spring Lake Park, as you know, there's a guy who's playing right now for the Bison, Bo Johnson, who was an awfully good high school football
Yeah.
player. That was
Well,
a
Zach
dude.
Johnson.
Zach Johnson was a former Panther at Spring Lake Park as well. That's a great football program
it is.
there.
It is, and they, you know, we don't see it. It's split back veer.
Yep.
And so you better be able to stop the dive, because if
Yeah.
you can't stop the dive, it's going to be a long
Well,
day.
there's another guy that tormented you that's up with the Bison now, and Kate Osterman at Elk
Yes.
River, and boy, he was a great football. That
Great.
just goes back to you have routinely done this, even games you may not win, you have willingly looked at, we need to play these kind of teams. Tell me why that's
Right.
important.
Well, you know, I think the biggest thing is when we were playing Section 8 in football, it's going to come down to a handful of teams, right? And it's always physical. You got Brainerd, you got Bemidji,
Yep.
you got Alexandria, and these teams who are traditionally very, very good. And so to go to the Metro, I think the big thing is for us is we want to make sure our kids understand that hey, the Metro's no different than us. You know what? We have every opportunity to go down there and be
Yep.
successful. And a lot of times I'll play the angle of we've got to make a statement for outstate Minnesota on Thursday night
Yep.
when we open up at Spring Lake Park, because naturally everything revolves around the cities, right? And
It does.
you know, we're not going to get a whole lot of respect.
Nope.
Anytime we go down there, we take a look at the paper in the playoffs and who's going to be projected to win. And I don't know if we've ever been favored
I was going to say,
to win.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like last year, Spring Lake Park coming up here, it's a huge feather in their cap for coming to play us. Not knocking Rogers, but this is going to be Rogers' second trip, and I think we've played him 7 years in a row. And
down there, right?
Down there.
Every time it's been down there.
That's what I mean.
Normally it's been over Labor Day. So,
yes.
Because I can remember that.
But
Good
speaking
for
of
them,
that
they
too,
finally are coming this way.
when I was up in Grand Forks, I saw Wyatt Bell, and I said, "Dude, I'm so glad you're not playing for Rogers anymore, because I think he swallowed Jet last year during a play when he was rushing our passer." But no, you know what? It's great. It's great competition.
But you've had teams flat out tell you no, right?
Absolutely.
Twin Cities teams say, we're not coming up. We'll play at our place. We're not coming up here.
Absolutely. And that's going to be a challenge. That's always a challenge
Lame.
for everything. But you know what? There's certain programs that are going to embrace it, and there's certain programs that are going to stay away from it. But we can't control that. And so
I can say it's lame because it is. So over the summer, I texted you because the recruiting circuit gets going, and then I saw one of your players who just finished his freshman year got offered by Kleiman at Kansas State, and Tay Reich, your running back. Was that out of left field for you as well?
Not really. You know what? I knew throughout the spring, as the traffic was coming through, that we had some young players that were going to be garnering some pretty good.
That's
attention.
young, man.
That is really young.
Have you had that happen?
No.
Okay, so no freshman ever had been offered.
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
But you know what? It just kind of tells you where college football is
No
right
doubt.
now. I mean, right? You know, back when I first got into this, you would maybe only see that in like hockey.
Yeah.
Right? Where I think Frisch kid, committed to UND when he was like an 8th or 9th grader or something like that. But college football is really, really getting faster. I can go both ways on that. It's awesome. But on the same token, dude, he's 15.
Right.
He's 15.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's still a lot there. But, we were just saying he's a very mature young man, and he understands that this is just part of the process, and there's a lot of work to be done.
So I'm assuming there's others coming then. If Kansas State's in it, how much have you heard from other schools about him?
You know what? It's going to start to blow up. You know what I mean? As he kind of gets his, you get that initial name out there, and then the next step is going to be able to produce some pretty good, hopefully, results on the field on Friday nights. And, you know what, then it comes. But first and foremost, kids like him, they put in a lot of work. Like I said, there's been a lot of preparation being done for him, and a lot of our players. And that class for us has been a special.
You've
class
had your eyes on that one for a bit.
Has been coming, and the beauty of when you have a class like that is it's not just an individual. That it's the high tide raises all boats, right? And so that group has really pushed each other, and they're going to push for a lot of playing time in a lot of areas on our team.
Your pipeline keeps going to Grand Forks. Owen Thiel just over the summer verbally committed. Tell me about him and what he can do at the next level.
Yeah, you know what? Owen's a good football player. Super happy for him, and glad that he was able to make that decision before the season starts. Owen has from day one has wanted to play college football at the highest level that he thought he could, and after taking a couple visits, got offered by Northern Iowa, and really felt like Grand Forks was the right fit for him schematically. And good athlete, long kid who can run, and very, very physical in the run game. And he's got to be a leader for us. He's got to be kind of the general back there and making sure all our young guys. I mean, he and Tay are going to line up next to each other. And I joke that's not a bad way to start your back end.
That's
so
okay.
We'll take it.
You have for people that know this as well, you have Jack Tyken back up there, Jamal Dixon. Expectations for them, for what you know, for them at UND this upcoming fall.
Yeah, you know what? I got a chance to see them both on Saturday, and Jamal's coming off of a plantar fasciitis injury right now, so he's just kind of getting back out onto the practice field. But you know what? He looks really good, and I know he's had a good summer. Jack, there's just like this. I was just telling Brent and Jodell, his mom and dad, like there's just this kind of like he's a vet now. When you go in your third fall camp. And his body feels good. He feels great about the scheme. And I just think there's like this calmness of confidence, right? And that's what you get when you get a kid like Jack who's put in a lot of time. Same thing, but you know what, that you're not thinking anymore.
Yeah.
Now you get to play and the terminology, and you just kind of garner that respect, I would say.
Couple minutes left here with Kevin before we got to let him go. Tell me obviously I know they're two different people, but did you use anything when you coached Trey that has helped you with Jet, or is it can't help? You can't transfer one to the other.
You know what, they have a very similar personalities. You know what, they're very calm kids. I think sometimes they try to calm me down on the sidelines, and they both do. But you know what, like I was saying, with watching film with both of those guys now and watching game film, we're really seeing it with Jet as our transition this summer is, you know, when we go to 7-on-7 Skelly type stuff or even team camps. Now the input is coming back here. It's not just me saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's, hey, what are you seeing? What do you like? What do you don't like? Where do you think we can take some advantages? And that's been a big step for him. And really, Trey's helped that a ton.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, Trey's worked with him a ton, you know, in these last couple of years. And that's been super fun. I don't always have to be the guy. I can just send those two and just be the guy on the side catching balls. But I do have to wear gloves now. My hands, like, it's not that I can catch really fine, but my hands start stinging so bad where I can't feel them after a couple
They're zipping it in there, huh?
And so hopefully the Jackman, I let him throw whatever he wants to throw at home.
All right.
Let him throw.
I got it. I will. He's throwing lefty, by the way.
Hey.
So I told my wife, if he gets to 95, we're set.
Well, then we're set. Just sign the major league contract right now. Cade would tell you the same thing, right?
Exactly.
I mean, let's go.
But are you jealous because of how often your sons throw? You never threw the ball. Like, how often did you throw the ball in a game?
You know what? Like, when Coach Babbage came, we started throwing a little bit more. But I always tell both those two, if I would have got to play in spread football, that would have been a game changer. And this whole RPO stuff is so good. But it's the defensive guys will all tell you it's cheating.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they got linemen downfield, and we're throwing the football, and it is what it is. But hey, we call the majority of the things run, and we end up throwing the football, and that's just the way it goes. Because especially when you got Jet and Trey that are like, every chance we can get, we're going to throw the football if that's possible.
If I would have told you 15 years ago, hey, here's your offense in 2024, you would never believe me.
No,
right?
I think in 2020 there was 4 of our 7 games we didn't throw the football, or we didn't run the football in the first half. And at Fargo South,
it never would happen.
At Fargo South, man, it was. I don't know if we had to throw the football very often, but.
Last thing, Brian Cole has unveiled this old video. Drew Trafton was by last week because he was working on this and showed the video of the all-orange Spud look.
Right.
Can that happen?
Hey,
Can we do that?
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Let me just keep saying that.
All right.
We're getting closer. Love it. Hey, you know I like uniform.
Yes,
I'm a uniform guy, so
right.
I try to
the
follow.
Kids would love that.
Exactly.
Orange helmet, orange jersey, orange pants. Man,
yes.
Holy cow.
I love it. Let's
Look
go.
out.
Let's get it done right now.
Dean watches. He can, he'll
right.
do it.
Come on, Dean. Let's go.
What is your favorite combo you have right now?
Gosh, you know what? I would probably say the orange and black with the it looks pretty good.
Yep.
It does look pretty good. And then we do the chrome, the chrome stickers up top.
Yeah. The orange pants are sharp.
They
man.
are.
No one else has that.
They are.
I don't think, right?
No, not that I know of.
That's pretty darn good.
Not that I know of.
People are going to roll their eyes. We're talking uniforms. I don't care. It's my favorite. It's great to see you. Good luck this year. I know we'll be chatting during the season, okay?
Hey, sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
Kevin Feeney joining us in studio. Moorhead Spud's head football coach. They begin their journey coming up in just a few weeks against Spring Lake Park. Open practice later today. We'll break. Kolpak's, I'm sure, upset because he's waiting in the wings. He'll come on. We'll talk some Bison football the other side of the break. Back after this.